Hello and welcome back to the Self-Excavation Hub channel. My name is Chiquita Toure, also known as the Excavator. I want to welcome you back to the channel and encourage you to subscribe and share. I'm glad you're here today because we're going to be diving into a topic that can truly transform how you navigate your life's seasons. Today, we're talking about the topic of self-excavation and passing through life's challenges using faith as your anchor. Now, some of you may be wondering, what exactly does that mean? Well, stick around because by the end of this video, I'm going to share some practical steps and, more importantly, biblical wisdom to help you face tough situations, to dig deep into your own soul, to move forward into new seasons with strength and with clarity. Now, let's go back and kind of remember what we talk about when we talk about self-excavation, because it's a term that I use a lot, and it's based on my 21-day devotional self-excavation, Unearthing You. When we look at the term self-excavation, it sounds a bit intense. Like, what does that mean to excavate oneself? When really it's simple. It's quite simple when you break it down. When you think about self-excavation, it's this process of digging deep into your heart and your mind. You're peeling back the layers of who you are and why you do the things that you do. It's the intentional and sometimes difficult process of self-reflection, introspection, and it helps you to understand your past and uncover hidden beliefs. And it helps you to identify those areas in your life where you may need healing and growth. The Bible talks about this a lot. This kind of reflection, we find a lot of wisdom, biblical wisdom in Proverbs, in the entire book of Proverbs. There are 31 chapters in all, but I want to call your attention to Proverbs 4 and 23. It says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. And this is a great reminder that this is what's happening inside of us when we're reflecting and self-excavating. We're thinking about our emotions, our thoughts, our beliefs, everything that we do. And so self-excavation is a way to guard your heart by looking within and then allowing, partner with God, to reveal to you what's been buried inside, right? And Psalm 139 is verses 23 to 24. David says, search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there's any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. This should be everyone's prayer when you're beginning your self-excavation process. It's an invitation for God to help us do the hard work of excavating our hearts. It's not an easy task. It's a difficult and challenging task. God says, I want you to know the truth about yourself. And you're also saying, God, show me the things that I cannot see, my blind spots, and help me to pass through those different areas of my life. So self-excavation is not about triggers or inflicting past wounds upon yourself or inflicting past traumas. It's not about shame. It's not about guilt. It's not about thinking about all those areas in your life where you failed or you felt you were not good enough. It's about understanding your heart so that you can grow and heal in those places that need attention. It's about discovering what's holding you back so that you can move forward. And as you take those steps, you create momentum. Momentum creates this pathway to freedom. Now, we're going to talk about the second part of today's topic, and that is passing through. As you know, you can pass through each season. And I'm not necessarily talking about just chronologically, I'm talking about different life events, things that happen in your life where you feel like you get stuck or stagnant. We're going to talk about what it means to pass through. And passing through carries deep meaning. In life, you're going to go through seasons. Some of those seasons are really good, right? Some are challenging, right? None of us stay in one place forever. We have to move on. So there are moments in our lives when we feel stuck, we feel overwhelmed, and sometimes we feel like we're buried under those circumstances. But the key is knowing how to pass through, right? We're reminded of Psalms 23, 4. And David, as he writes this Psalms, he says, even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. And then notice through, the word through. David doesn't say, I sit in the dark. valley. You don't meditate on the darkness. It's not like you're getting trapped in the darkness. David says, I'm walking through it. That means that these valleys that we come into in our lives, these valleys that have us in this place of stuckness, we pass through them. It's an important thing to know that we're passing through. We don't become consumed with the dark valleys. We learn how to pass through. Now, does that mean that when we pass through that we ignore the difficulties in our life? Does it mean that we say, I'm just going to, be this super spiritual person that activates this biblical verse in my mind and that's just going to get me through? No, it means that we're acknowledging God and trusting that he'll lead us through. Just like the Israelites were passing through the wilderness in the Old Testament, we too can trust that God is going to guide us and help us to pass through towards this promised land. Each season, there's an opportunity to enter a new season of growth. But we don't just pass through because we are doing this in our physical strength. We're passing through using faith as an anchor, right? Why is it important to pass through with faith as an anchor, you may ask yourself? Well, faith gives us the confidence. When we trust in God, it gives us this confidence that when we're in a particular space and time, it gives us that confidence to keep moving forward, even when we don't see something laying ahead of us. Like, I can't see it, but because I have this faith as this great faith as an anchor, I'm trusting that this season is not permanent and that I refuse to be stuck in this season. Hebrews 11:1 tells us, now faith is the confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. Now, we may not always see the outcome, but we can trust that God is working behind the scenes. He's doing, remember, God is sovereign and he's omnipotent and omniscient. He's working behind the scenes. So faith is going to keep us grounded. So when those storms come and when those uneasy things come, he reminds us there's a purpose in waiting on him. There's something that we really need to think about as we're passing through these moments and times that we can identify as valleys. Now, I've heard some people say, if only I had a little bit more faith, or my faith is weak, or I'm struggling so much. And even though I know God is true and God is alive and I love God, the reality is it's not always about having that perfect faith. It's about having faith in the perfect God who's with you every step of the way, who won't leave you in that valley. He's leading you through the valley. Through the valley. Now, I want to share with you some practical steps that you can use as you're passing through challenging times, right? So, okay, we've talked about self-excavation. We've talked about the importance of passing through. Now, we're going to talk about some steps that you can use when you find yourself entering a season in your life and you're becoming stagnant, right? You're at this place where you cannot move and create momentum, and it's very difficult to deal with. It's very difficult for you to articulate, and sometimes it's very difficult for you to get moving. The first thing I want you to do is just acknowledge the season that you're in, right? Sometimes we want to rush through the hard times, but when we're honest with ourselves, we have to face it. It's like you see some things about yourself and you look in the mirror and you said, I'm going to face myself during this time. So if you're going through a loss, a transition, a challenge, you need to take the time to acknowledge it. In Psalms 34:18, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and save those who are crushed in spirit. God is near in those moments that we face hard time. He's closer to us in that time. So this is what I want you to think about. He is closer to you in those hard times. Number two, I want you to lean into your faith. Lean in. Lean in into the faith, right? Faith is your anchor in the middle of storms. And storms, of course, we are using as a metaphor. It can be challenges, opposition, loss, you're grieving, you're mourning. There's been some missteps in your life, and everything around you may feel uncertain. But you have to remind yourself that God is with you and his promises are true. And continue to repeat that to yourself until you get that settled into your spirit and stand firm in his word. So Isaiah 43:2 says, when you pass through the waters, I will be with you. You're never alone. Remember, we're passing through. Acknowledge it, lean into faith, and remember you're passing through. Now, number three, I want you to take some practical steps moving forward. What does that mean? You don't have to have it all figured out, right? Sometimes we have this big plan and we go from A to B to C to D to F, and we want to rush to go from A to F. You don't have to have everything figured out, right? Sometimes it's the small steps that we take and we make progress. We're chunking these steps. And so sometimes these small steps that we take eventually gets us to a place where we can see an opening, right? It's an act of faith. It's moving in the direction of your healing and your purpose. It's saying, I know that I don't have it all mapped out and have it all together, but I'm going to take these baby steps. And then when I get to a certain point, I'm actually going to see a little light coming in. Seek support from others. That's step number 4. You don't have to do this alone. We heal in community, we heal in groups, and so seek support from others. Don't walk through these valleys alone. Share your struggles with a trusted friend, with a mentor, with a coach, with family members. Galatians 6:2 says, we are to carry each other's burden in the way that you will fulfill the law of Christ. And so, support is one of the greatest gifts that God has given us. Don't lean to your own understanding. There's so much wisdom in a council of elders, those who are using biblical wisdom. So, and number 5, keep your eyes on the promise. Keep your eyes on the promise. Life is not always easy. We will have disappointment. We will have frustration. There will be times when we are just we feel like there's a rage inside of us and we are maybe given to impulsivity. But you have to remember that God has a purpose for you. He says he knows the plans for you. He declares that his plans are to have you prosper, not to stay stagnant, stuck, but to have you pass through. His plans are for you to have a hope and a future. And so God is leading you into something that is new and beautiful. Pass through. Unearth the you who God has created and pass through. So there you have it. You're uncovering your heart through the self-excavation process. You're passing through with faith as your anchor. You don't have to stay stuck in the valleys of life. You make sure that you get connected to people who can support you. And I promise you, you're going to emerge stronger on the other side of this. So that when life challenges hit you again, it's not about following these steps in a chronological order. It's about understanding you've been this way before. So take the time to reflect. Take the time. That can be writing, that could be journaling, that can be using a voice recorder, but lean into your faith and remember to take action. Seek support and always look towards the hill from whence your health cometh. Your health cometh from the Lord. He made the heavens and the earth. Again, thank you so much for watching today's video. I really would love to hear from you about this topic of self-excavation and passing through using faith as your anchor. I want you to stay hopeful. I want you to stay strong. And I want you to keep passing through whenever life puts you in those valleys. And so until next time, remember, be blessed.